as a Clare man, you'll know that our small boat fishing industry in the county has collapsed, as we're well aware. It is a fraction of what it used to be. This is an industry that could provide very significant onshore added value in communities that need it, particularly through the processing of high quality, high value fish and their use in our local restaurants and hotels, even in the West Clare, the Clare area and the Midwest region. Minister, can I ask you how you plan to rejuvenate the industry in places like Carrigaholt, Doonbeg, Quilty, Liscannor and other places across the west coast of Clare? The difference it would mean if we could get it back up and running again. There was a lot of people self-employed in it in the past, but unfortunately very small numbers at the moment.
Yeah, thanks very much, Deputy. And I know you have a strong interest. You've been in touch with me on this on a number of occasions. And I've had an opportunity to visit some of the small-scale fishermen in the areas that you talk about. There's a mixture of activity there. There's the sea angling, and there's a number of people generating gainful employment from taking sea anglers out as part of their leisure and pleasure activities, and that supports some accommodation providers in the area. There are other small-scale operators that are mainly in the inshore sector, fishing for lobster and crab. I suppose stocks have dwindled over recent years, and that's why there's not as many involved in it. We had a very significant programme of V-notching of the lobster, which is aimed at ensuring that the female lobster, when they're fished, the fisherman is provided with a significant payment to put a V-notch on the fish and put it back in the water. These are for the female lobsters that have berries on them, so in other words they have eggs on them, and we're trying to keep them for another 3 or 4 years in the water, so that it will improve and increase the level of lobsters into the future. We have other conservation work going on with crab, the brown crab, and there is a brown crab document that has been provided that we published recently, and I intend to implement the recommendations of that. So what it's aimed at is trying to increase through conservation and maintain, at best, to maintain the existing fleet that's there, and hopefully grow that over time, because you've rightly identified the opportunity that's there for high quality fish that are brought ashore in a low impact way, rather than in this bulk fishing which often just goes to mass markets, and the kind of small scale fisheries that the inshore fishermen and women are involved in, and then connect those with the local wholesalers which are providing, CS Fish in Doonbeg, great operation, buying from boats all up and down the west coast of Ireland, and that's direct access into their shops, and they supply to restaurants without ever going into the big producers, and it's that kind of work that I want to continue to encourage. It's almost artisan-like. We've the same if you look at what happens in Clare, say up in, and you'll be familiar with the Burn Smokehouse, where Brigitte Curtin is taking Irish salmon from, ethically, organically farmed Irish salmon, smoking it, bringing it to a very high standard and exporting it into the United States and elsewhere at premium prices. And that's where I see the future of these small-scale fisheries. It's not recognising that the stocks are challenged. How do you get more for less? It's happening in the main beef sector at the minute. You see farmers are reducing their herd numbers, but they're getting a higher price for beef. It's making families more viable. It's making their enterprises more viable and sustainable. And we've got to see the same opportunity in the fishing opportunity. So, and then what we can do, and we did, and you and I and Cathal announced for Clare earlier this year around the funding and just the number, the total quantum of money for Clare, I can't recall, it was maybe 400,000 or whatever, but it puts small amount of money into those little harbours that you talk about, and it makes it easier for fishermen to land their stock and support them in every way that we can. So and Clare is kind of, I suppose, a microcosm of what goes on in coastal communities right around the country.
Would the lack of investment over the years have caused issues that we have now at the moment in the West Clare region, do you think?
It's not so much the lack of funding, Deputy. One's consequence of the other. There's no doubt that the pressure on stocks and the overfishing. I mean, when I go back to the lads in West Clare, they were really pleased that we moved on getting the big boats out of the bays, for fishing for sprat, because not alone were they taking sprat, they were taking everything. The large boats were coming in. So the measure that we took earlier this year to take the larger boats out of the inshore area, those that are over 18 metres, gives all those smaller scale fishermen and women an opportunity now to fish for not just sprat but other species as well that were being absolutely ripped out by these trawlers. Now, they challenged it every way, and I'm not taking the credit for this, quite frankly, because other ministers tried it to the nth degree. So far we've been, I won't say lucky, but we've put in place such a robust legal framework. We believe that it's watertight and will withstand any challenges, but it has taken time to get there. So the activity of some of those large-scale operators over time was really where the damage was done, because it's kind of taken away all the biomass of fish at various different stages of development. Truthfully, it's like anything. If the fish were there, there'd be lots of fellas and women in trying to catch it. So I suppose the conservation, if I was to look to anything, it's a pity that the conservation measures couldn't have been put in place sooner. But successive ministers tried it and they were challenged in the courts. But yes, I think it is a fact that we do need to see continued investment in our piers, because that helps the angling side.
I'd agree, and that's important. But now is it too little, too late? And
it's too little.
Hopefully it is not.
I think both you and I come from a county fair. We would never take a defeatist attitude.
I know.
But I think the conservation is the appropriate measure. And the exclusion of vessels over 18 metres, forcing them out of inshore waters, will help the biomass of fish stocks to recover. And I intend to robustly defend that decision, regardless. I have instructed officials in the department that if there's any attempt to undermine this in the courts, we'll challenge it head on. Let's be frank about that. We cannot continue or allow to continue what had happened. So that's a definitive. What I then want to see happen is, as the biomass for the various different species starts to recover, that we support fishermen in their ethical exploitation of those stocks, and that we will support through funding the infrastructure that's necessary and deemed necessary, not just in Clare but along our coastline, as well as then looking at, as I said, the kind of supports that will be necessary to assist fishermen and women remaining in the business while the stocks recover, because we are on a journey now towards conservation for fishing. It has to be done in a more ethical way, and that challenges. But I would also want to give a shout out to the inshore fishermen and women. They've been doing this ethically all their lives. All their lives. It was just unfortunate that some who have a different business model, and they do really good work out into the ocean, but when some sought to come in and clear the inshore area for short-term gain, I think was unfortunate, but that was legal at the time. It's not now, and I intend to robustly defend that legislative position that we've taken.
Thank you, Minister.
Thanks for your interest.